Over the past few years, even though I've heard a lot of good things about it, I haven't had much time to watch Japanese anime, which is something that only continues to gain popularity right here in the United States. But after hearing about Chainsaw Man, the movie Reze Arc, it seemed like something that I needed to review. After all, for quite some time now, we've been getting such lackluster movies and shows from Hollywood that it's always interesting to see what's being done in other countries, especially a country like Japan, who's always had a rather intriguing and different culture. And I was already pleasantly surprised by movies like Godzilla Minus One from Takashi Yamazaki a few years back, as well as The Boy and the Heron from Miyazaki, both of which I had the chance to see in theaters. And since Chainsaw Man, the movie Reze Arc, is actually a sequel to Chainsaw Man, the series, I ended up watching both the series and the movie this weekend so that I could properly do this review. Now, I'm going to give you a very general idea of what this movie is about without spoiling every detail, in case somebody wants to go watch it. And then I'm going to share my general thoughts with you about this movie, and how this very popular Japanese series and movie compare to American entertainment and pop culture these days. And if you enjoy getting honest movie reviews from an independent movie reviewer like myself, please make sure to like and subscribe, as it would really help my channel. So at the heart of Chainsaw Man, both the movie and the show, there's a character called Denji, who's an orphan teenage boy around 16 years old, who lost his mother when he was young due to illness, and then lost his father after killing him in self-defense. After that, in order to survive, Denji would have to work for the Yakuza to pay his father's debt to them. But one day, Denji encounters a wounded dog devil monster who he manages to revive with his own blood, forming some kind of pact with him. This dog is called Pachito, and he kind of looks like a chainsaw dog. And later, when the Yakuza would try to kill Denji, Pachito would save him by merging with him and becoming a hybrid human-devil being, where at times Denji can transform into a man who has chainsaws for his arms and face. Now, I realize how strange all of this sounds, but if you actually watch the series and watch the movie, this somehow does make sense. And in this world, there's humans, there's hybrids like Denji, but there's also these type of evil devil monsters that are being chased by an organization called Public Safety, and their role is to go get rid of these monsters. And in order to do so, they have a team of what they call devil hunters, and the ones that we see, they take their orders from a woman called Makima, who on the surface seems like a nice, innocent woman, but there's always this feeling that there's something more manipulative and sinister under the surface. And Miss Makima, she basically recruits Denji and explains to him that if he doesn't join their quest to fight the devils, he'd be considered one, and then they'd have to destroy him. So he ends up joining this crew of law enforcers, if you'd like, and that's where he meets other people like Aki and Power, who also work for Public Safety as fiends, which are different than Denji because they are actually possessed, or at least somewhat possessed, by devils. And throughout the series and the show, amidst his battles with these type of evil monster devils that he's actually very skilled at destroying, it's also clear that the main thing driving Denji is that he's interested in food, shelter, and women. And as a teenage boy, the other women around him seem to know exactly how to manipulate him, realizing that he wants to do naughty things with them, and they can somehow use him to their advantage. The movie itself continues this idea that after his fight against the samurai sword, Denji goes out on a date with Miss Makima and seemingly forms a bond with her. But then he meets a young lady called Reze, who seems to be in the same mindset as him and in the same age group. And they appear to form a real bond as well, and even engage in late-night skinny dipping and things like that. Things become a bit more complicated though, as Reza is also not what she presented herself as, and without spoiling too many details here, the situation escalates into becoming a big threat during which Denji has to fight, but also has to make decisions that could affect his relationships with his colleagues and other people. Now, if you listen to all of this and you're thinking to yourself, wow, this sounds very strange, that is 100% correct, but that's actually what I like about Chainsaw Man. If you approach it with an open mind, I think that it's actually very imaginative and surreal and different, and I like the animation and the characters, the fighting scenes, along with a little bit of humor. I talk so much in my reviews about how Hollywood has ruined the idea of escapism because they keep wanting to lecture you about politics in their movies, or they want to be politically correct, and they're so obsessed with all these things that they forgot the basic idea of having to actually entertain their audiences who pay money to see their movies. And when I watched Chainsaw Man, I didn't feel any of those negative things. I feel like the people that made Chainsaw Man the movie are very creative. Their ideas may be out there, but they certainly commit to their ideas. They've built a certain world and a lore that actually explains everything that I discussed, and the more you watch, the more you get into it, you actually enjoy what you're seeing, however bizarre it is. And at the end of the day, both watching the series and the movie was actually a nice experience for me. I mean, I complained so much about lack of ambition or lack of trying different things, and at least for me, Chainsaw Man is ambitious and it is different. And when I hear that a lot of young males have been turning their attention to anime in recent years, I can totally understand why, because as opposed to what's going on with the type of Hollywood productions that we see, these anime movies and shows are not afraid if somebody will find them offensive or a bit obscene or gory. They just go all in with their ideas, and I mean that in a really positive way. And yeah, a lot of teenage boys like that kind of stuff. Seeing a young man that wants to do naughty things with women without being apologetic about it is actually quite refreshing, and at the same time, the ladies around him are quite literally femme fatales, and they're presented in a feminine way. There's so much magic and wonder in this production, the kind that's really missing from Western entertainment these days. And somehow, Japanese directors, artists, and filmmakers are now seeing this vacuum that's been created by Hollywood, and they're managing to find a space within it. And the fact that Chainsaw Man is already doing much better than expected at the box office here in the United States in its opening weekend, even from a business perspective, if you think that a movie like this was made for about $5 million and the type of money it's now making, this is good business too. And by our industry standards here in the US, it's practically unheard of. When you look at something like Chainsaw Man, when you look at something like Godzilla Minus One that was made for about $15 million, you understand how with the right creative team and the right creative approach and the right talent, you can create high-level entertainment, not just spend hundreds of millions of dollars on lackluster, boring crap. And instead of sitting and taking notes from these type of productions, Hollywood doesn't seem to be learning any lessons. They just continue to grow more and more delusional. And in my opinion, this is going to continue to hurt their bottom line unless they sober up to what's going on here. And at the same time, much like we saw a revolution in comics years back with manga and how it's taken over the comic book industry, we could very well be seeing something like that from anime, especially because it's so easy to dub it into English and to have it accessible in so many other languages. Now, before I give my score, I want to make it clear, this movie and show are probably not for everybody. You have to be open to watching something completely different and giving it some patience and time to really absorb it. And I understand that it may not be for everybody, but I can only speak for myself when I give this movie a grade, and for those who are not familiar with my channel, anything below a 60 is considered a failure. Usually something in the 70s means that it's a decent movie, but anything from 80 and above is considered good. And if I had to give Chainsaw Man, the Movie Reze Arc, a score, I suppose I would give it an 80 out of 100, which means that this is a good movie if you know what you're walking into and are looking to be entertained by something different. And if you enjoy getting honest reviews from an independent movie reviewer like myself, please consider liking and subscribing, as it would really mean a lot to me. Thanks for watching, my friends. Thank you, and good day.
I am such an awesome guy. I make so many videos.